Alright, so continuing on with the series here, the next requirement of survival is water. And I'll show you what I came up with after 2 to 6 weeks of living here. I do want to expand just a little bit and say initially what I did for water is I rode my bicycle 2 miles down the main drag, well, about 2.5 miles one way, with 2.5 gallon jugs, and I filled those up at the garden faucet of my aunt's cabin. That worked once or twice until I realized that my bike just wasn't made to carry that much weight, and I would go through, you know, for everything I need, not just including drinking water, but for bathing, washing clothes, everything else, I was going through a good 5 gallons a day. So that would be 2 of those 2.5 gallon jugs, biked 2.5 miles down the road one way and back every single day. So the next thing I did is I took 2 5-gallon buckets across the road about maybe 200 to 300 yards to a creek, a small creek, and I got water that way. And then I would purify it with bleach if I needed it for drinking, or I just boiled it, to be honest with you. But I did a few times, I did purify it with bleach when I needed a larger quantity for cooking something, boiling something, I don't know. That actually worked really good for about, I think it was 6 weeks of living here, about a month and a half. Every day, my routine was to take a 5-minute, 10-minute walk through the woods to this little creek and get 2 5-gallon buckets full of water. The creek is about 20 foot down a bank. There's a bank that has been eroded, so you got to walk up and down about a 20-foot hill to get to the creek. With 2 5-gallon buckets, which weigh roughly 40 pounds apiece. So you're carrying 80 pounds of water up and down this 20-foot hill, 5 minutes through a wood where there's no trail. You're tripping over logs that have fallen. You're stepping in holes where animals have dug or whatever. And it actually worked pretty good, and it gave me something to do. But then I had... the end result was this hand pump well here, and I'm going to go into more details about how I came to that end result in another video, but like I said, I want to keep it short and to the point and just show you what I eventually came up with, and that was this hand pump well that I drove myself into the ground. And when you I might do a separate series on how to do a well, but there's plenty of videos out there on how to drive a well. Basically, all you're doing is you're taking the well point with the pipe, and it's basically a big, long nail. And you're driving that nail into the ground until you hit water. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's a hand pump well. I'll bring you in. Well, actually, I don't need to bring you in closer. I think everybody knows what a hand pump well is. These buckets are actually the buckets I made my wine in the winemaking videos. But the thing I found out with a hand pump well is it always comes out rusty. Now, I've got mine set up to where I don't need to prime it every time because I put a check valve on it, and if you want, I can go into details of that later. But every time you start it, even with the check valve, it comes out just as rusty as can be. And when you replace the leathers, which are the seals that make the pump work, when you put new leathers in there, it ends up turning your water purple for about a month and a half. So I didn't want to drink rusty or purple water, so I just got this little bucket, or basin, or whatever you call it. Each pump of this is about 8 ounces of water. About, I don't know, 8 ounces is a cup. So with each pump, you get about a cup of water. And I would, once I fill that up, it's about a gallon, gallon and a half, and that's enough to clear out the pipe and get to clear drinking water. I'm just going to run this over and kind of overfill it here. Dump it in the sink. And then I can just fill my bucket up. And what I did is I had one bucket for the kitchen, one bucket for the bath, and I kept that separate because in the bath there's the potential of getting germs in there. And this one is strictly for drinking and cooking water. So I would just go ahead and fill it up. And that's pretty much it. I just leave a lid on it. And then, because this is a shallow well, I went ahead and made one of those DIY Berkey filters. It's actually, the Berkey isn't just a filter, it's a water purifier. And it's very easy to make. There's plenty of how-tos on the internet for that. But I put 2 of the Berkey elements in there. There's the Berkey Black, and you can see they're coming out the bottom, and the lid is attached to the bottom bucket. So this is the water to be filtered, and this is the water that is filtered. I put it on a little dolly so it can roll around. So I would fill this up, then I would dump it in here for drinking water. This would be for cooking and stuff, and then I'd have the other bucket for bathing or that type of stuff. That's pretty much it for the water. No, I won't get up. That's pretty much it. That's what I used for water for over a year. And that's it. Like I said, I may make another video to expand on that. If you guys have any questions or input, suggestions, then maybe I'll make another video to follow up and explain why I didn't do it that way, or why this way was better for me, or answer any questions or anything of that nature. But that's pretty much it. That's how I got my water. And oh, gotta count the cost. The total cost of putting in the well with the pump and everything, even the driver to drive it in, was about $300. I had to ride my bicycle about 10 miles to get to the store that sold the equipment I needed. One way 10 miles, 10 miles back, and for me, with the terrain, it was about a 2.5 hour bike ride one way. And I hauled that all back on my bike. I got a little cart that goes behind my bike that I throw stuff in. So $300 for the well, and start to finish, never having done a well in my life, start to finish, it took 3 to 4 hours to get water pumping out of the well. So it's a short investment of time, a relatively small investment of money, but it is labor intensive. And I was pretty well laid up for at least 2 weeks after doing it. But I had to do it. I mean, it was either that or keep walking back and forth to the creek or riding way down the road and using up all my time simply to get water. And probably end up breaking a leg or getting hit by a car in the process. But that's it. That's how I got my water. And as always, thanks for watching.